Hello, everybody, and welcome into a special edition here of Texas Longhorns Live with the Georgia cast at the Voice of College Football. We have Matt Green, Bo Underwood, and obviously my co-host to the far right, Gerald Goodrich. We really appreciate you guys joining us. We did the Ohio State preview show. Today we have the Georgia preview show, and, they got the best of us last year. How are you guys doing tonight?
Excellent, man. I'm happy to be here. The 2024 season was an interesting one, but I'll gladly revisit some of these Texas games. Those are the ones we remember fondly.
These are the ones we want to forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Ready to talk some ball, man.
Yeah, for sure. So let's jump into this. Paul Feinbaum had to talk today, and usually when he talks, in my opinion, he has bad takes. So today he said Archie Manning is the best college football quarterback we have seen since Tim Tebow. I will let the Georgia guys hit on this one first, then Gerald, we'll get our opinions off on this one.
Bo, you want to start?
Do I think he's the best college quarterback since Tim Tebow? That's a crazy thing to say about a kid who hasn't, started a full season yet. So I don't know if I would agree with Paul there, but I do agree with Paul that Archie Manning is immensely talented. I look forward to watching him really take the reins of this offense. I don't know if I'm ready to literally say he's Tim Tebow yet, but I'm pretty pumped to watch Archie Manning this year. It's been a long time coming. I feel like we've been waiting for this moment since he was in high school, and it's here now. So it'll be a fun thing to keep an eye on for sure from an outsider's perspective. Not a diehard Longhorn like yourselves, but yeah. I'm pro Archie Manning, I would say. I don't know if Matt agrees there, but
yeah, first of all, like going all the way back to Tebow, maybe in terms of like a media circus iconic guy, maybe he becomes that. But like, did Paul not see Cam Newton play or Joe Burrow? Like those guys, Lamar Jackson even? Yeah. Like, I don't know.
I did see someone retort to Feinbaum. They're like, Tim Tebow wasn't even the best quarterback in his own quarterback room.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean,
that's a whole other debate, but yeah.
Cam Newton's like the best player I've ever seen. And I'm a Georgia fan. I don't like Florida or Auburn, but Cam Newton was just incredible. But I don't know, like it's such lofty expectations. It's kind of interesting because Texas fans are probably the only other fans that understand what Georgia fans are going through in terms of the quarterback just got so much hate last year. Like I just look at Steve Sarkisian as one of the best offensive minds in all of college football. And I think Paul Feinbaum even said that while criticizing him for not putting in Archie Manning against Ohio State. Like that was the other thing. It's like, well, what was Texas on the 1 yard line with 3 minutes left? Like down 7, like Caleb Downs makes an amazing play. And then whatever that the turnover and gets taken back for a touchdown. Like Texas was this close to winning it all, essentially, to getting to the national championship with Quinn Yurs. So it's just terrible revisionist history, in my opinion, to be like, oh, they put in Archie Manning, that team's going to win the national championship. And then I look at that on the same token. Quinn Yurs is a 7th round pick. Granted, I think he probably shouldn't have gone in the 7th round. Personally, I think he's just one of these guys that gets too much hate. But I mean, this guy's a 7th round pick, and the guy behind him is going to be the greatest player of all time. Like he sat for 2 years. Like Tim Tebow was basically a 3rd down running back as a freshman, and then actually started as a sophomore. Like this guy's been sitting the bench for 2 years and couldn't beat out someone who the NFL thought was a 7th rounder.
I'll let you go.
I mean, I think that's always the argument that comes up commonly. I think there's like one. I appreciate you like having a rational take about that national championship game, right? Texas was on the one, by the way, because there was a touchdown ball thrown into the end zone that was interfered with. So we'll just put that off to the side, right? There's a lot of revisionist history about that. But no, like Quinn, I'll leave the national championship game aside. I'm still hurt by it, but no, there's like, if Archie Manning lives up to the billing, right, then yes, he might be one of the best that we've ever seen because perfect grade recruit coming out of high school, right? All of those things. And a lot of what we've seen on tape and what he's done in camps and what we're seeing and hearing out of the program itself indicate that, we may be getting close to what we think he is, right? But ultimately the kids started 2 games. So like how it's very cart before the horse. And Feinbaum does his job perfectly, right? His job is to get ESPN clicks about the SEC, right? It is a clickbait. Yeah. He is the clickbait master, right? And he does his job well. Like he is good at it. That's why they pay him so handsomely to do it. It's absolutely just like a clickbait thing. Again, I'm pretty high on Arch Manning. I think also we need to like pump the brakes because he's going to have a pretty sketchy offensive line. I struggle with the Quinn Yurs of it all because I think there's I think his medical evals were probably pretty nasty. I think nastier than we probably even have any indication for. So I think that might have something to do with why he fell so far. But ultimately, like if Arch was so good, why didn't he start over Quinn Yurs? Because no matter how good you are, you still have to learn the system. And him, regardless of how talented he is, was coming out of private school New Orleans football, right? So like having to adjust to the speed of the game and learn the process and system. Sark puts a lot on his quarterbacks to manage in the game, making calls at the line and making adjustments. A lot of Texas's big plays last year were actually because Quinn Yurs audibled into them. And so some of that I think is why Arch wasn't like the physical tools are probably ready, but did he have it? Did he have the knowledge of the offense and reading defenses at that level? That's probably the question that I think is still out there. But ultimately, back to the point, like I think Feinbaum is just generating clicks for ESPN because that's his job, and more power to him.
I mean, he did it so well. This is our first topic tonight, so congratulations. Right? But yeah, that's the thing. I think it's generating clicks, and it sucks because you combine the Manning name with the 5-star prospect, and you get this behind a guy that really doesn't want the attention. Like in the interview with Marty, I forget his last name, Smith, I think it might be, from ESPN. He sits down. He's like, I want to earn the stuff I'm getting. I have yet to do that. I'm hoping one day I get there. Like he knows he's getting all this pub because of his last name, and he doesn't really want it. I mean, the kid at one point, last time I checked, had 4 tweets on Twitter. And one of them was, I'm committed to the University of Texas in a Texas shirt. And that was it. That's how he committed. This guy doesn't want all this attention. He's never been like that. So I feel bad for him. 1.
Yeah.
2, he didn't start last year for this one play. Watch 4th and 13 versus Arizona State and the audible to get to that play and to check the protection. Arch Manning's not doing that. Quinn Yurs is. That's why Quinn Yurs was starting last year over Arch Manning. Talent-wise, Arch Manning is much more talented than Quinn Yurs. He just is. And then I agree. Quinn was not a 7th-round pick. Like, if his medical history aside, we're talking, I think, 3rd to 5th round, somewhere in between. That was my opinion of him. Like, let's be honest here. No one thought going into that draft, Dylan Gabriel was going to be drafted above Quinn Yurs. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
That's fair. And I don't think I'm not one of these that thinks just because he didn't beat out Ewers, that means he can't be good. Yeah. I just think most people, don't you think it kind of felt like the more popular opinion was that Ewers wasn't that good? Like I felt like I was telling people like, dude, Ewers is actually good. But most people, for whatever reason, didn't kind of thought he sucked. And maybe it's because they just love the backup quarterback. And so, yeah, there you go. Both thought Quinn Yurs wasn't any good.
Yeah. So you can go.
All right. You go ahead, Matthew.
No, you're good.
I don't think Quinn Yurs was a bad player. And I always not to make it about Georgia, but I do go back to the Jake Fromm, Justin Fields situation where it's like, yes, you have one player who is clearly just way more physically talented than the other guy, but it's like Quinn Yurs was what? That was last year was his 5th year of college football. I mean, he's been around, and I really think the experience is really invaluable for a team like Texas who had championship aspirations. For me, it never really seemed like a possibility that Arch Manning was going to start that early. I always thought that Sarkisian always had this plan in place. Is he's going to come here, he's going to sit behind Ewers, and then when Ewers graduates, he's going to take the reins. So I don't know. I think that was 95% just media drumming up that there was ever a quarterback competition ever. I think the plan was pretty simple. So I'm with y'all there.
People forget Arch Manning was the 3rd-string quarterback his freshman year. Malik Murphy was the backup quarterback. And I said that going into the season that Malik Murphy was going to be the backup quarterback. And everyone's like, no, Arch has a chance to start. And you saw after the spring game, Steve Sarkisian squashed that. He's like, Quinn's our starter, and Arch may not even be the backup. And people are like, wait, what? What's going on here? It's like, dude, the guy is a freshman. Not many freshmen start right away, especially at the quarterback position. If people don't forget, Trevor Lawrence didn't even start right away at the quarterback position. Kelly Bryant did for, I believe, half that year before they actually brought in Trevor Lawrence.
I think they gave him the 4 games so that he could still transfer because he had that year.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was.
And one thing, it's a total side topic, but everyone forgets how good Jake Fromm was. The 1 year Justin Fields was there. That's all I'm saying.
28.
We don't have to talk about it, but Still salty
Bo,
about that one.
You talked about Sark's plan at the quarterback room, and it wasn't just Sark's plan. The thing that everybody forgets is like Cooper Manning said that Arch was not going to start for at least a year, if not 2 years. That was part of the recruiting process. It was like, we're not sending him to a place where he has to start day one. We don't want him to be the guy who has to come in and save the program. That was part of the reason why they picked Texas, was because they knew that he was going to be able to sit for at least a year, if not 2 years. And you're right. Sark's plan is to go from 2 years of Quinn Yurs to 2 years of Archie Manning to probably 2 years of Dia Bell to then 2 years of whatever other, professional
Gunnar Rivers.
athletes. Yeah. They haven't offered him yet. Gunnar Rivers doesn't have the offer yet, but it might be Gunnar Rivers, right? Or whoever the heck else they get on.
Someone named Rivers.
Right.
Yeah, one of his 12
got
kids.
13 chances, right, to get a quarterback in Texas and one of the Rivers kids. But no, Bo, you're right. Like, it was not part of the plan for Arch to start last year. And I think, honestly, with all the transfer portal rumors that hit early in the season, that was like, if they needed Arch to start, then maybe that's why he transfers, because they don't want him to have to play early, right? But ultimately, that was never on the table for him to be the guy at Texas last year.
Well, and just like on Feinbaum and the media in general, the narrative has been pushed that Arch Manning's going to declare after this year and be the number one pick. Even if he's the number one pick, guys, I'm letting you know this right now, he will not declare for the NFL draft. This has already been set in stone. His family has talked about this. The coaches know this. Dia Bell actually said this on an interview on the Cover 3 podcast. He expects Arch Manning to be there next year. Like, Arch Manning will be 2 years at the University of Texas at least. Hell, Archie, in an interview in a bar like 3 or 4 months ago, got asked, and he says, I want him there for 3 years, and then I want him to get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. That's what he wants. So the media just makes up. Yeah, exactly. The media just makes up whatever narrative they want and then goes with it to get as many clicks as possible.
That would be really interesting if he tears it up next year and then goes back to school. That would start a lot of interesting conversations.
It's like, how much is if Texas is paying him however many million, you could still be worth it to go to school for another year.
He'll probably make more money going back to Texas than he would on his first year of a rookie contract.
It's possible. Carson Beck's making more this year than he would in the NFL.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, there's a good chance. I think my best guess, he's probably making anywhere from 4 to 8 million with the Red Bull, Viore, and all those deals. So, I mean, he could probably make, if he has a great year and comes back, he could probably make 10 million next year.
I love when I'm like scrolling Instagram and I see a new Arch Manning product.
It would just be a crazy rise to go from sitting 2 years to being a generational talent, to be like you're saying, like he thinks Tim Tebow is the best quarterback in the last 2 decades. I don't personally, but regardless of what he thinks that's the best quarterback we've seen in the last 2 decades is what he's saying. And it's like, I don't know, after not starting for 2 years, it's tough. Because a lot of guys, maybe like a Deshaun Watson, a Trevor Lawrence, like you're talking about, they just, at some point, it's like, okay, we have to play this guy. Mm-hmm. And I personally think Justin Fields comes back to Georgia second year, something like that happens. It's like, okay, we have to get this guy in the game. And it's a legitimate competition, maybe when he knows the offense better. So for him to sit for 2 years, it's hard to see 2 years, sit 2 years, and then all of a sudden you're the best player in college football. Like, we've seen a Mac Jones or something take over, like that, stuff like that has happened, but I don't know.
And that's the thing too. Like, Gerald and I are reasonable. I have him ranked 4th in the SEC and like 8 to 12 nationally. Gerald, what do you have him? Was it 3rd in the SEC?
Yeah, I think third in the SEC, 4th in the SEC. Like, the kid started 2 games. Like, we haven't seen enough from him against quality opponents to like rank him. And I honestly still feel like I have him too high. I think the wildest part about this conversation for me is that in an era where people are complaining about guys transferring too early and guys not wanting to wait their turn, we are like making a narrative about a kid not doing that, right? It is that we're making it out to be a negative that a kid came to a school where he could develop and sit and wait his turn and learn. Like, we are in an era where nobody does that anymore. And people, I'm included a lot of times, like, complain and lament that bygone era. And now we're making it an issue that Arch Manning did just that, where he came to school and he waited his turn and he was a good teammate. He held a clipboard for 2 years, right? He did all those things that they asked him to do, right? We're in an era where that doesn't happen, where you've got guys that are on their 4th and 5th schools because they couldn't find the right starting spot. And so, like, it's just, it's all backwards to me. And I'm old and I'm grumpy at times. So, like, well, I'll just leave it at that.
No, that's fair.
And we'll hit on this a little bit, but Peter Burns also said, I believe the SEC runs through Austin. So if he means athletic program as a whole, I don't disagree with that. If he means the football team, I completely disagree with that.
Yeah, I just don't know how. If he means all of athletics, that's one thing. But it's like they didn't win the SEC in football. Like SEC, I feel like runs through whoever wins it every year. So. I don't know. You could say Texas might win it next year, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying it already runs through Austin. It's like, y'all just got here.
Yeah, it would be like if you went back to 2018 and Georgia just barely lost to Alabama in the national championship. Then they have that epic loss where they do the reverse. Then Jalen Hurts comes in for Tua in 2018. And after that game going, you could make a legitimate claim Georgia's the future of the SEC, but you would never say the SEC runs through Georgia. And no, the SEC runs through the team that just beat them both times. So it's fun.
I feel like when Missouri joined the SEC and then went to the title game, they're like second year. And then they're like, the road to the SEC runs through Columbia. Like it doesn't.
It's like Georgia's been to 7 of the last 8 SEC championships, if memory serves, something like that.
I think so,
3 or 2020 was I didn't.
It's insane that it still runs through Athens. Like there's no two ways around that. Like, will Texas have a lot to say about it this year? Absolutely, right? And I think there are going to be some games that are won and lost in Austin that will determine who plays for the SEC championship. But as long as Kirby Smart is still on that sideline, and as long as Georgia's playing for it every year, the Texas hype, as a Texas fan, as a Texas alum, as somebody who is going to wear burnt orange and have taken my kids to games, the Texas hype is too much this year, and I need it to stop. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. We know this as Texas fans. We are one of the, I think, 2 biggest brands in college football. I think it's us in Ohio State of that logo. Wherever you go, you see that logo and it gets clicks. It is what it is. Is it annoying as hell? Absolutely. Every offseason, even when we were bad, Texas is back. Texas is going to do this. And Texas fans were not saying that. We were saying, please stop. For the love of God, stop. It was Joe Tessitore out of nowhere said, Texas is back after Notre Dame.
So funny.
Yeah, and we didn't ask that.
After what's the name? Swoops?
They beat Notre Dame in overtime.
Swoops. Yeah.
And
Notre Dame was starting like Sean Kaiser, bro.
Yeah. So, just stop.
It was a great game.
It was an incredible game between 2 terrible football teams.
We thought we were watching a top 10 matchup. So
it was what was it? 5-17 versus a 4-8 team.
Yeah. No, dude, Notre Dame was terrible that year.
They were both trash that year.
Yeah.
So please stop. That's what we ask from the media, but we know they will not be doing that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it too, because there's just those certain programs, and that's probably where Georgia fans come from. We still got a little chip on our shoulder because we're not one of the blue bloods. Mm-hmm. It's like you'll never be a blue blood. That was decided decades ago. We just kind of have to accept that we're just really good. But it's like whenever those blue bloods go a period without winning championships, everyone's just ready for it again. If USC has one good season, it's like, okay, USC is back. Or you said, Texas is back. I mean, they do it with Miami too, but we're talking brands. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and defend Alabama, but Forrest Gump did play for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So, that's true. That's iconic there.
I've never thought about that. The impact that Forrest Gump must have had on Alabama football as a brand.
That is true.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so let's jump over to this. Texas offense versus Georgia defense. Let's be honest here. Georgia's defense won this handily last year. I believe Texas gave up 28 sacks on the season. 15 of them were to Georgia, and they held us to 1.4 yards per carry. So you guys dominated this matchup last year. My question for you is, who is the next great Georgia defensive lineman? Not the guys that we know of, like the Christian Miller, but who's that guy coming up that could be like a freshman or a sophomore that hasn't popped off yet?
Oh, well, his name is Elijah Griffin, and he's a true freshman. Yeah, I think that would be that was definitely the first guy that popped into my head in terms of who's going to be Jordan Davis, Jaylen Carter type. Elijah Griffin is already become something of a folk hero in his short time in Athens. I believe it was Warren Brinson who was watching him in the spring, and he was like, "Oh my God, he's Jaylen Carter again. This is just Jaylen Carter too." Yeah, this kid is an athletic freak. One of those kids that you just look at him and you're like, "What are they feeding you?" crazy speed. It's tough to project these true freshmen, and especially on the defensive line, such a physical position that Georgia rotates out so often anyway. So we don't know how much he's actually going to see the field. But if we're to believe what we've heard throughout this spring and summer, it's going to be pretty hard to keep him off the field. So I would that's definitely of all the freshmen I think on the team, that's probably the guy that I'm most anticipating.
Yeah, and me and Bo talk about it a lot. There's certain guys I just don't like comparing people to. After Brock Bowers, Georgia fans been obsessed with tight end forever. And after Brock Bowers, this guy could be the next Bowers. It's guys, we're not having another Bowers. That's Bowers, it. That's the only time a tight end should lead us in receiving. Jaylen Carter is kind of one of those guys for me. It's he was just so damn good. It's hard for me to say the next guy is going to be someone like Jaylen Carter, especially as a true freshman. Maybe he is a star, but maybe he doesn't do it in 2025. I'm hoping he does for sure. And yeah, the fact that someone like Warren Brinson, who played with a guy like Jaylen Carter, is saying that's definitely carries some weight. But that's what's so interesting about this Georgia defensive line. Like you said, Christian Miller is the most proven one on it, but there's just so many unproven guys in this group right now. I feel like Jordan Hall is a guy that Georgia fans have been waiting on for multiple years. He just hadn't been able to stay healthy. And then Joseph Jonah-Ajonye, I feel like he's either a sophomore or a redshirt freshman. Did he play at all last year?
Because that was kind of my thought with not getting too ahead of myself with hyping up Elijah Griffin, because Joseph Jonah-Ajonye also came in with a ton of hype and was a 5-star, and he just disappeared. I forgot he existed until week 6 when I was looking at the roster. I was like, wait, where the hell did this guy go? So that's
that other 5-star defensive lineman we signed. Yeah. You just kind of forget about him.
So many guys that are unproven on this defensive line. I think Jordan Hall is in line for a pretty good season if he can stay healthy. He's just never been healthy, but he's a really talented player. And but Christian Miller probably is going to be the best player on I think that's the safest bet for the best player, but biggest X factor for me is definitely Elijah Griffin. That could really he could change the whole interior defensive line if he does that thing that Georgia has sometimes where it's they just have a true freshman go insane. That happens sometimes with them. So
Isaiah Gibson's the other one, right?
Isaiah, he's the edge rusher though. Yeah. And then Xavier McLeod, the South Carolina transfer, he's probably one of the guys who played the most snaps that's going to be back. And he flashed. And he
had a weird foot thing, I think, that kept him out of some games, but he did show some stuff last year.
The edge rusher is definitely, I think, what we're most concerned about.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
I was dreading you getting there. I don't hate that. Yeah. Y'all are probably licking your jaw, not having to think about Jalen Walker and Michael Williams anymore. Cause this is not the first time Georgia's had a lot of talent, move on to the NFL. That's just kind of what comes with the territory when you're a big program, but they're usually a little more stocked with younger guys that are kind of ready than they are right now on the edge.
I think so. And I think there's always one or two consensus first round picks. Everyone knew Malachi Starks was going to be a first round pick. Everyone knew Michael Williams was going to be a first round pick. I think more people in the know knew that Jalen Walker was about to break out, but he hadn't really done it until 2024. But it's every year there's a couple. Tate Ratledge was getting kind of all-American hype. Every year Georgia at least has 2 or 3 guys. You're those guaranteed first round picks. And it doesn't really look like that on the team on this roster right now. And it's so weird too when you talk about Texas, because last year was Georgia's worst run defense of Kirby Smart's tenure. I think they gave up 128 they gave up if not more. They gave up almost the same amount of yards they ran for. It's the worst rush offense they've had ever. And then they gave up over 120 on the ground. I know 2018 they gave up over 120 on the ground. 200 rushing yards against them. Yeah, there was 5, 6 straight games that they gave up 100 something, 150 yards or something like that. And then the 2 games against Texas, they give up 60 combined in those 2 games. It was the weirdest thing. Their defense did not play dominant at all last season, except for when they played Texas.
It was really unfortunate for.
You don't think so? You don't have to lie. You don't have to lie.
Like that whole the whole Georgia, we really did feel. I mean, obviously, Georgia ended up winning the SEC, but the whole year it kind of felt like Georgia was terrible. And then they played Texas, and it was like, oh wait, this is the team with 5 first-rounders on its defense. Last year was really weird. Yeah,
I mean, they played 6 games against college football playoff teams, right? Am I doing that, Matt? No. 4 games against college football playoff teams, went 4-0. Like blasted Clemson early in the season too, beat Tennessee and beat Texas twice. And then we're sitting here like, are we even good? Like, I don't know. I got blasted by Ole Miss, like barely beat Kentucky. Like it was just such a weird year.
Strange year. But yeah, back to the edge rusher thing, because like I think that is probably the single worst position group on the team, really. Matt, you might have another. There might be one that's slipping, but I really do think, I mean, it's what, like, Elo Madozi might be the guy who's like the defense will hinge on his performance the most, because if he can come in and provide some juice as a pass rusher and be a 6-7 sack guy, that would be, that would really solve a lot of their question marks. But like, if he can't do that and Georgia just can't rush the passer, it's him and Gabe Harris. And, then they're just Schumann's having to blitz all the time to get pressure. Like that really could change a lot. And that could really hurt Georgia's defense. So like, I don't know how good this edge group is, just because they're unproven. Elo Madozi coming off a very good season for Army, but now it's SEC ball. We just don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And Quintavious Johnson is a redshirt freshman. A lot of people hype up. I mean, he's like 6'4", I think like 265, and he like played quarterback in high school and stuff. Like, so he's just supposed to be like a crazy athlete. But he didn't really play at all last year. I don't know about you guys. I'm a vibes guy myself. And Gabe Harris went from number 29 to number 0 this offseason. So I don't know. I feel like those are big things. I think he's switching to a single digit. That means he's a playmaker. No, but Gabe Harris is
gotta be a baller to wear a 0.
That's what I'm saying. So, but that's a very inexact science. I think Gabe Harris is the guy who played the most snaps of any of the returning edge rushers. But yeah, with Jalen Walker going to the pros and Damon Wilson to Missouri, like that's the position I'm the most worried about. The one thing. The one thing, like, caveat for that is like the inside linebackers might be the best position group in all of college football. Like, I feel like Georgia's inside linebackers are going to be just 4 deep with just studs. And I think you're going to see a lot of Justin Williams and a lot of Chris Cole as like that third line inside linebacker on the field that's rushing the passer and things like that. Because I mean, CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson, it'll be hard to unseat those returning starters, but all of the hype in the spring is around the redshirt, or I guess sophomores. Justin Williams hardly played at all. He might be a redshirt freshman.
I think he's played just enough. He appeared in games and just didn't play well.
But yeah, all the hype in that linebacker room is about the 2 second-year guys, and Chris Cole and Justin Williams.
Yeah, my hot takes about Georgia's defense is I think by the end of the year, Chris Cole is going to be their best player. I mean, that guy is insane. Y'all saw it. They trusted him against Gunnar Helm, like almost one-on-one as a true freshman in Austin, and he made him disappear. Like, Chris Cole is an unbelievable player. I mean, he's, a converted safety. So and you can kind of see that in his coverage instincts, but he's also like really quick and, has good size and is like kind of shown some growth as a pass rusher in the last year or so. So it's like, if he keeps developing the way that he's been developing, I think he's going to be the best player in Georgia's defense by the time he's a sophomore, by the time he's finished his sophomore year.
Do you guys remember Alec Ogletree?
Yeah. Played for the Rams.
Yeah, I was a huge Alec Ogletree fan. I feel like I just get Alec Ogletree vibes. Like, he was like a safety linebacker, just crazy athlete, long. Like, I feel like Chris Cole kind of reminds me of him.
There's been a couple of those. Thomas Davis too, although I guess he didn't move to linebacker till the NFL. But
yeah, would have loved to see Alec Ogletree in a Kirby defense.
That would be sick, dude. But yeah, and then I guess we can talk about the DBs a little bit too. I'll start with Dalen Everett, who played very well against Texas last year in both games. I think he had 4 total takeaways. He's probably like, I'd say Matt. I think he's probably the best returning DB that they have. Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson are going to be two pretty big losses in the safety room. They have KJ Bolden stepping in, who is a baller and he's going to be a star, but also, that on-field leadership that Malachi Starks provided, I used to always see him getting guys lined up and barking out stuff. They're going to really miss that. But yeah, and then next to Dalen Everett at corner, I guess it's going to be a battle between Ellis Robinson and Daniel Harris. Matt, who do you think is the better player there?
He's a redshirt. Ellis Robinson's like the 5-star guy.
It was number one player in the country by some. And I think it just disappoints fans when the number one player in the country doesn't get on the field right away. It pisses me and my brother off all the time. I'm like, whenever we don't get one of these guys that's from Georgia, Caleb Downs, whoever, they're superstars from day one. And it really pisses me off. But obviously Georgia's gotten their fair share. So no one's crying for us. But
Georgia never gets good players.
No, yeah, Georgia can't get 5 stars. Daniel Harris is the one I feel like everyone is ready to lose the job because of Ellis Robinson being that highly ranked player. But according and Dalen Everett was out for the spring with an injury. So, but according to everybody, Daniel Harris was clearly the best corner on Georgia's team over the spring. So this dude's 6'3", 6'4", just like an insane athlete at corner. And he got that targeting, that huge hit against Florida, and they called targeting, but they picked it up.
Right. Yeah, that was him.
But yeah, I mean, he can hit too. I feel like Daniel Harris is kind of taking his game to the next level. So as much as I want to see Ellis Robinson, and granted, maybe if we see Jeremiah Smith, we'll throw it to Ellis Robinson, because I know in those camps he was supposedly one of the only guys that could guard him. I don't know. That was a long time ago. That was high school. But that's a long way away. We don't even play Ohio State, but. I don't know. Just looking at Georgia's DBs, I think KJ Bolden, like you said, I think that's probably, if I'm picking a guy on Georgia's defense, it's the best candidate to break through and be an All-American, because we're kind of talking there's a lot of unproven guys. KJ Bolden kind of feels like that guy that could take the next step. And once again, another 5-star safety that's in his second year. So, and then at the star position, that nickel corner Georgia plays, Jonel Aguero, I feel like he kind of locked that spot down last year. He's had his problems staying healthy. But outside of Jonel Aguero, I mean, who's the next guy at star?
Honestly, man, I was just kind of thinking this just now, and I haven't really thought this out that well. But I wonder what the chances are if towards the end of the season, if they just decide they just want to have their 5 best DBs on the field, if they just put Robinson at outside corner and then kick Daniel Harris to star. Because I feel like I know he's never played there, but I really feel like he could. Because he's built for it.
Star does feel more like that safety kind of hybrid. Yeah. So it does have to be a guy that's a good tackler. I don't know if Daniel Harris is that. I feel like Jonel Aguero seems like the perfect, Javon Bullard. Oh man, I don't know about you guys, but I have dreams at night about Javon Bullard. I just miss him in Georgia's star position so much. Just making DBs just getting in the backfield, making plays in the run game. It excites me.
It was dope.
That's how we're gonna feel about Jahdae Barron. Texas fans are gonna feel about Jahdae Barron.
Jahdae Barron went crazy against us, man.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is good now, so we're not celebrating an injury or anything. But I mean, Javon Bullard doesn't make that hit on Marvin Harrison Jr., then Georgia doesn't win that Peach Bowl against Ohio State. But got off topic there, but Jonel Aguero feels like that perfect kind of physical slot corner that they want. And I think he got ejected for targeting against Texas, right? In the first game. But I think you're going to have a transfer starting in the secondary opposite KJ Bolden, whether it's Zion Branch, Zachariah Branch's brother from USC. Like me and Bo have said before, he got number 2. So I don't know if that says something of how good he is, but
we have a lot of jersey number theory.
And then there's the UAB transfer and the Miami transfer, 3 safeties that Georgia brought in.
Maddox and Trey Harris. Yeah, I'll be Kirby Smart was never too complimentary of those guys throughout the spring even when he kind of had every opportunity to be. And, he's particularly hard on safeties because, he played safety himself, I guess. So I do find it kind of concerning that by this point, like, there has been really, unless I'm just not, maybe I just don't know enough, and I definitely don't because I'm just some guy talking. But like, we don't have a lot of public information about a guy who's really emerged to take that other safety spot, and I think that is interesting. I think it's worth thinking about because, like, their safety room was probably one of the top 3 in college football last year, and it might just not be very good next year if one of those transfers can't really lock down the job next to KJ Bolden. We know KJ Bolden is probably going to be very good, but then they're an injury away from being like, what is this, you know?
I mean, yeah, in 2023 and 2022, I mean, that secondary it's ridiculous how much talent it's had in it. So it's going to be a little different this year, but at the same time, like, you've seen J.R. Reed be a first-team All-American and then did he go undrafted? Was he 7th rounder, go undrafted or something?
Yeah,
So Dominic Sanders was like the all-time leader in picks, and granted, he only had two of his years with Kirby, but all-time leader in picks, and that guy, I don't think he got drafted either. So it's like, I feel like I just trust Kirby Smart with safeties and defensive backs, regardless of who's back there.
Georgia and Kirby Smart, like one of those teams that they're going to have a guy, regardless of who it is. We may not be talking about him. They may be a kid that we never heard of. Who, like, it's kind of like Oklahoma softball. I said it for years up until this year, right? Until Georgia is not playing for the SEC championship, that they're going to have dudes, right? I'll believe it when I see it. They're going to have dudes, and the day that they don't is the day that I'll believe it, because they're going to have guys. Like, it's not a question in my mind.
Yeah, we just don't know the names right now, but it feels like I would be willing to bet we're gonna see some really good players.
Yeah. You don't stack classes like that and not.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I'm nervous because we usually do know the names, so I'm a little uneasy.
Thing, man. It's just overall a much younger team across the board.
Oh, did we lose Gerald?
Gerald, no.
I think we lost him for a second. He'll be back though. But yeah, I think it's interesting because you guys don't really know on your defensive line, and then our offensive line. I know mostly who I trust in on the offensive line, but it's definitely a question for us. Our left guard, Neto Umuluzulu, he's going to be for his first year playing. The other 4, I feel pretty confident. Like, I thought Trevor Gooseby versus you guys last year in the SEC championship game played pretty well. I didn't think he was bad at all. Let me see if I got him back. But I think he'll be fine. Devon Campbell at right guard is the guy that I just need to live up to the hype. Coming out of high school, he was the #1 interior offensive lineman. I think he might have just been the #1 offensive lineman, period. And he hasn't really lived up to that at right guard. Wide receiver is interesting because up until today, I didn't know who the 3 starters were. And then Sark had an interview with Greg McElroy, and he came out and said today it's going to be Wingo, DeAndre Moore, and Emmett Mosley. The third one is the one I didn't know about. Emmett Mosley I knew was in the rotation at number 3, but it seems like those are the 3 front starter guys. So that was very interesting to learn. And then the running back room, I think Gerald would agree with this too. Like, super talented. Like, we have 5 to 6 guys in there that can really go. But our top, in my opinion, our best 3 are probably Wisner, Baxter, and then I think Christian Clark's the most talented of the whole room, in my opinion. But the problem is Baxter coming off an MCL, PCL, LCL injury, and then Christian Clark tore his Achilles. So I don't know about that room right now.
So Baxter tore all 3 in one injury?
Yeah.
Dude,
wow.
He had some really bad injuries running back.
His girlfriend played on a bum knee, though. What's his excuse? His girlfriend won a national championship on a bum knee.
I think I remember, did Rodney Harrison do that in the Super Bowl? I think tore all 3 or something.
I think he did. Yeah. And then Terrell Owens played on the broken leg in the same one, I think.
Phillip Rivers played on like a torn ACL one time. Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, we've seen firsthand of some guys that are superstar running backs, a Zamir White or something, that, you know, they come after that ACL, they didn't look like they had the same juice afterwards.
Yeah. And I think, guys, we're talking running backs. Like, I think my issue with the Texas running back room is like they don't have a second pitch, for lack of a better term. Like, all the running backs are very similar. Where, you know, Sark likes to run outside zone. He wants a guy who can kind of bang, you know, between the guard and tackle in that B or C gap. But like, they don't have the guy who's going to break off a big, you know, explosive run. You know, the guy Trey Wisner, the guy last year is probably the closest to that out of all of them. He's not a game breaker by any and again, I feel like I trash on Trey Wisner and I have to put this caveat. Trey Wisner was a 3-star running back that put the team on his back and rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Do not hear me speaking ill of Trey Wisner.
Do people talk?
He's really good.
Talk bad about Trey Wisner?
So he might be talking about me
player.
because I say this and I stand by it. He is not a number 1 running back on a national championship team. He's just not. If you look at the history of the last 10 years, Wayne Gallman is the worst running back. And no offense, Wayne Gallman's a better running back than Trey Wisner. But I don't hate Trey Wisner. He's a very good running back.
Yeah, I just feel like I have to put an asterisk anytime I talk about the running back room and Trey Wisner. Because Trey Wisner was great for Texas last year. He was also a 3-star kid who may or may not have stayed in the class to keep his cousin in the class, right? That's part of the conversation around Trey Wisner. The kid should never have to buy a beer or a meal in Austin again, period, end of sentence. 1,000-yard rusher, was not expected to be RB1, came into a crappy situation. But we look at Texas red zone abilities last year. If they have CJ Baxter versus Trey Wisner, different body type, different running style. CJ Baxter can get you 2 yards when you need it in a national semifinal game, right? You don't have to throw a toss to the fastest safety in college football, right? That's the thing. So that is my big question. Is CJ Baxter going to be healthy? And who is Texas's second pitch? Because they're all kind of the same guy.
Well, and then if you say Jarrett Gibson, like I said, Christian Clark is our third best. If you say Jarrett Gibson is our third best, that dude fumbled every time, every 10 carries. In the Georgia or Florida game, I think he fumbled 3 times. So unless that gets solved, and I'm not big on that either, because if you look at the history of running backs that have fumbling issues, they usually don't get much better. I know Adrian Peterson had that issue, and he still kind of had it his whole career. And guess what?
Over that.
Yeah, guess what? You put up with it because he's one of the 7 best running backs of all time. Jaden Blue had that issue, and he's not one of the 7 best running backs of all time. So guess what we did with him? He sat on the bench, and then when we needed someone to catch a pass, that's when we used him. And guess what? He was phenomenal versus Ohio State, because guess what Ohio State's weakness was? Running backs out of the backfield, and he was great in that game. But that's not every team's weakness. It wouldn't be your guys' weakness this year because your inside linebackers are freak shows. So, we need to find out a running back that can hold on to the ball, break a couple tackles, and then also be explosive. I think that's the thing of Trey Wisner. He's not very explosive. CJ Baxter can be explosive and it can run over guys, but is he going to be healthy? He just got cleared 2 weeks ago. So maybe by the time the Georgia game comes around, he'll be ready to go full force. But by the time Ohio State, I don't think he's going to be full force.
Well, that's what's so interesting about talking about how they match up with Georgia, because I would have said last year they matched up well with Georgia because Georgia wasn't good against the run, and then Georgia somehow stopped the run better against Texas than anyone else. But I don't want to just derail the whole show, but I feel like you seemed very specific. Top 7 running backs. I want to know who your top 7 are now.
Okay, so this is going to be out of order, but Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson, Emmitt Smith. All right, so those are my 5. Maybe he's top 5. Maybe I'll have him as 5. I'm missing.
Are you missing anybody egregious? I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to think.
Edgerrin James
from a torn ACL, one MVP.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe an old school guy, Jim Brown or something.
So Kane the Diesel Freak, I know we have beef, but thank you for the $5. Defense wins titles, and Ohio State and Georgia do it damn good, and they know how to handle business. I mean, I don't disagree with that. So.
I mean, that's Ohio State's defense and Georgia's defense are the reason why Texas didn't win either of the trophies they played for last year, right? Georgia absolutely embarrassed Texas's offensive line and quarterbacks and all of that. And I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's kind of my phrase that pays. Caleb Downs is what I call a blue shell kind of player, right? Mario Kart reference. He's a guy who can change the complexity of a game with one freaking play. And he did that, right? Texas threw a toss at him. He blew it up in the backfield. Next play, scoop and score touchdown and the game's over, right? So you are absolutely right. That's my big concern, continues to be that's why I don't feel super comfortable about Ohio State, because they have a blue shell guy on either side of the ball, right? Caleb Downs. And then they've got one of the best wide receivers, if not the best wide receiver in the country, on the other side, right? There are people in the SEC that may have things to say about that, but when push comes to shove, right, they've got one of those guys on either side of the ball. But this isn't an Ohio State preview, Georgia.
Yeah, and
I think he's a top 6 freshman wide receiver of all time.
Hey, I got specific because I don't want to mess it up. I like to be specific.
Yeah, you gotta be precise.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing too. Like I always point out the stat because I think it's not funny to us Texas fans, but it is funny. So 2 years ago, Iowa was 89th in red zone scoring. Texas was 90th 2 years ago. And I said, we can't be worse than Iowa again. Oh no, now last year we were 113th. So we were terrible.
Wow.
And that's the thing, unless that gets solved, and I said this halfway through last year, if the running game, red zone, which are one and the same, don't get solved, this team's not winning a national championship. And that goes for this year as well.
And are those the only two teams that held Texas below 20 points all season?
A&M did 17-7.
Oh, okay.
Let's be honest here, though. We that was us. That had nothing to do with A&M. We got down there multiple times and not doing it.
A&M had a good
weird
defense.
one.
They had a salty defense last year. Their defensive line was pretty salty. Had a couple of guys drafted.
That game should have been 30-0. I'm still pissed.
Fair.
At that.
So there are some
And maybe with Arch, with that running dynamic, with the quarterback, maybe that improves the red zone offense a little bit.
I'm hoping.
I'm excited to see what Sark will do with that.
That's
just a dimension Ewers doesn't have.
That, and then Jack Endries, Gerald knows. I think he's going to have the best season in the history of Texas football at the tight end position. I believe that. That's my opinion on it. That's my bold. That is my hottest of hot takes.
Who is the who currently holds that title?
That would be a debate between multiple guys.
Finley?
Yeah.
David
Thomas, I know, gets thrown in there as well. Those are probably the two fighting for it. They did different things. Like Jermichael Finley's a much better athlete than David Thomas, but David Thomas was old reliable. That guy was Jason Witten. It's like comparing Jason Witten to Antonio Gates. They all did different things. So, but I think
Michael Finley's a great name drop, by the way.
That's
a good one.
I'm the resident old. I was on campus with Jermichael Finley. It's fine. It's all
there.
Good.
You go.
Dude, he was a good player. He played in the league a long time.
Yeah, he was a very good player. Yeah, and unfortunately, July 4th, his son will be committing to Notre Dame, even though Jermichael Finley said over his dead body. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Oh wow, Thomas Davis's son committed to Notre Dame this class too. I don't know. They're snatching
taking on the
legacies.
He's doing well. So let's go on this real quick. But this is obviously really early. Who do you think holds the advantage in this matchup? I'll let you guys go first.
Let me think.
Go ahead.
It's tough because I think the thing that gave Georgia such a huge advantage in this matchup last year was its pass rush with Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, both probably having their best performances as Georgia Bulldogs against Texas. And those guys, not only are those guys gone, Elo Mendoza will probably be a plus starter, but like aside from that, you don't really know if your pass rush is going to be very good. And I think it's safe to say it is not going to be as good as last year. I think you can just kind of come out and say that already. So I don't know, but still, I think I still have to go with Georgia having the advantage only because I think Archie Manning is going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback, but we just haven't seen him yet. And, Georgia just has more established players, I think, in this matchup because Texas is replacing 4 starters on the line and, Matthew Golden at receiver and Isaiah Bond and everybody.
Yeah, that's what's so interesting is it's a very unproven versus unproven matchup. I guess I have to go give Georgia the edge just because of how much better Georgia played against Texas than anyone else. Like it was just kind of weird. And yeah, maybe Elo Mendoza is a good player, but I don't know what the wins above replacement difference is between a good player and the, butt kiss award winner that's getting picked top 15,
I think that's fair. And going on the road, like Athens is a really tough place to play. They're going to be freaking rabid. It's probably going to be a night game. It's probably going to be all sorts of it's going to be hell for the kid. Like I think Georgia has a lot. We'll find out what Arch has between the ears, I think, but for darn sure pretty quick.
Yeah, I would give Georgia the advantage. Like they terrorized us last year. So, and that's the thing too. Your defensive line may not be as good, but I don't think our offensive line may not be as good. I will say I do like the pieces, but I would give you the advantage. You proved it twice last year. It's hard for me to say, third time's the charm. Texas is just going to be much better this year. So yeah, I'm going to give you guys the advantage there.
And the fact that it's later in the season, right? It's like October, November, right?
November.
So you all should be those freshmen should be well established by then.
We don't know who's going to be healthy.
Good point.
Let's flip it over to Georgia offense versus Texas defense. I think we should just hit the most obvious thing here. What is your guys' faith in Gunnar Stockton?
Boy, yeah, you go first.
I don't know. I've never been like super high on Gunnar Stockton. I think I mean, the way he came into the Texas game, everyone loves to talk about the intangibles. I feel like because the intangibles of Carson Beck just like pissed off people so much. Like, we had a terrible run game, terrible offensive line. Our receivers dropped 37 passes, and somehow we're blaming the quarterback for all of our losses. Like, I didn't understand it at all. Like, Carson Beck probably completes 70% of his passes if we drop like 15 balls last year. I don't know, but it's kind of crazy. So my biggest concern is that when you saw Gunnar Stockton, because the intangibles factor, you know, that is something at the quarterback position. And when he came to that Texas game, I feel like the team rallied around him. There was an energy. Maybe they knew they had to, but you also saw him making some plays with his legs. There's that one highlight, you know, he kind of lowered his shoulder and he's kind of talking trash afterwards. I'm thinking that's what Georgia's going to have to be. And maybe the running game is better because you have a quarterback is actually part of the run game. And against Notre Dame, you just didn't see that at all. And so I was so confused of like, this guy's just sitting back there throwing it 35 times. Like, this is not how we're going to succeed, in my opinion. And I'm never critical of Kirby Smart. I'm so critical of what Georgia did before the halftime of that game. Don't even get me started on it. Like, we should just kneed on it. Like, just sat on it. Like, down. What was it?
I think you were only down by
6 to 3 or something at that point. It's like, let's just knee it. Let's go to the half. Change the whole game. Obviously, they take the kickback to start the second half. But that minute of game time is where the entire game changed. But
Georgia had a failed Hail Mary the game before that too, right? Like, didn't they have like a strip sack Hail Mary against like?
Well, that's how Beck got hurt.
Yeah,
but that wasn't a Hail Mary. We were on like the 20-yard line. It was like, what are we doing? There's like 20 seconds left, but we haven't moved the ball at all. We're not going to start now. But it was just a weirdly aggressive move, I feel like, but I'm not going to get into that right now. My biggest thing is I feel like Gunnar Stockton has to be a part of the run game. And the biggest thing I'll say is, or I guess the caveat is, a lot of people like to point to what Notre Dame's defense did against Ohio State and against Penn State, that Gunnar Stockton was more productive, you know, had more yards and stuff like that. I don't know if it's just as a passer. I'm significantly less confident in Gunnar Stockton as a passer than I was Carson Beck.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I definitely felt way better about Carson Beck as a passer going into last year than I do about Gunnar Stockton now. But that's also just because like we haven't seen Gunnar Stockton at all. And Carson Beck at that point was going in, you know, had a full year of starting under his belt.
Yeah, those are potentially the two best secondaries in college football last year, Texas and Notre Dame, that Gunnar had to face.
Mm-hmm. And there is something to be said for like how much the locker room does seem to be behind him. Like, you know, I got to like go to some media availabilities and like there was I forget which player who said it, but I can't believe I'm forgetting the guy, but I think he was like, yeah, Gunnar's one of the best people I've ever met. And I was like taken aback that like he said that about his teammate. Like, I was like, dang, like, okay, cool.
If you guys aren't aware, he drives like a 1984 Ford Ranger and like doesn't lock his doors, and he has like a flip phone or something. I don't know, but just as he
gets compared to Stetson Bennett a lot because of like the aw shucks quality of it all. But also, I think Gunnar Stockton has more, you know, more dog to him than that, if I can say that. But yeah, I don't know. What we did see from Gunnar Stockton last year in two very high leverage situations was just kind of mixed. But, you know, I think he's got a decent arm. He throws a pretty deep ball. Decision making needs to get better. He needs to get better just throwing the intermediate areas of the field overall. But I'd be surprised. I'll say this, like I'll be surprised if Gunnar Stockton just like sinks Georgia's offense next year. I don't think he will be bad enough to do that. And if anything, I think he'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I would struggle to guarantee he's a top 10 quarterback in the SEC next year.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Athlon has him ranked number 9 in the SEC. So I was wondering if that is a little bit off or no.
No, I don't hate that. I might
put him a little high, like a couple spots above, but not much higher than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about like some of those proven guys that are ahead of him, but I think the biggest difference is Georgia. Like we were talking about Georgia's defense being unproven. The offense is unproven at Georgia. The offensive playmakers are unproven at Georgia, but with Noah Thomas and Colby Young back from his suspension and Zachariah Branch at USC, like I just expect Georgia's receivers to be so much better than they were a year ago. And a couple true freshmen they brought in, like I think that should be the biggest difference because 37 drops, like that number is like tattooed in my brain. Like 37 drops, like that's an insane number of drops.
That happened.
I think SMU had like they dropped a pass versus Penn State, and the announcer was like, "That's their 8th drop of the season or something." We have 37 drops. How is that possible?
I'm shocked Kirby Smart didn't murder somebody. Like I like straight up just lost in the woods of Georgia somewhere.
It makes no sense. Like, I still don't understand how the receiving core was like at a program like that. Like, how does the receiving core get that bad? It was pretty shocking.
And Arian Smith's the one that got all the hate, and it's like he's the one getting open all the time. Like this guy, you got to give him his credit.
Bro,
but yeah, and I don't know how much you guys know.
Every game was Dominic Lovett, and by the end of the season, they just given up, and they were just throwing him bubble screens every time because that was the only thing he could do.
And he dropped some of those too, honestly. But I don't know how much you guys know, but like Mike Bobo in Georgia circles is like the most polarizing guy ever. And I just don't understand it, especially when you think about like the situations of some of those drops last year. Like first play of the game, Alabama had the ball first, right? Scored on Georgia. First play of the game would have potentially been like a 70-yard bomb to Arian Smith, and you drop it. It's like one of the first plays of the Tennessee game was like a 50-yard bomb. You drop it. Georgia scores like 7 points in the first half of that game. Like it just killed the start of like every game. It would be like, yep, early drop for I think the Texas game. I think Dylan Bell, had 2 different drops in like the first series. Like it was so frustrating. It just how it would just kill the momentum of any drive. And it's like, who knows how much like Carson Beck threw so many picks, but it's like, who knows how the drive is different, how the flow of the game goes if that was a 40-yard completion instead of we just punted because that was 3rd and 8,
Yeah, a lot of stuff would have been different. It was pretty bizarre how bad the drops got last year. And I'd be Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, Colby Young coming back. They're pretty excited about CJ Wiley, I've heard, and he had a pretty sick catch in the G-Day game. That's like a former 5. There's, Taylon Taylor's another guy with an insane pedigree. And it's like,
he was the higher ranked one, right?
Taylor. I think he was.
He was a 5-star, I believe.
I would expect at least one of those younger guys to get in the rotation at some point in the year too, because I think that's kind of what they were trying to do with Nitro Tuggle towards the end of last year. And then, Nitro Tuggle had that whole thing happen, and now he's with, I think, Purdue. Yeah.
Common place for our guys to go. I think there's at least 2 or 3 guys that transfer.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that are there. I think like CJ Madden or something is there. Like, but yeah, no, I think the playmaker should be much better. I also kind of like Lawson Lucky at tight end. Like, I think he's a solid player. Definitely not gonna lead the team in receiving or anything or be anything close to like what Brock Bowers was. But I think he's a better receiving option than Oscar Delp is. So and the offensive line is also like that's probably the group that has the most questions because you're losing a 3-year starter, team captain in Tate Rowledge, along with Dylan Fairchild, who was one of the better guards in the SEC, and then Jared Wilson, only started 1 year, but like he was really good for that 1 year. So now you have Drew Bobo, and then I think it's going to be Michael Morris and Daniel Calhoun, who has like never played at all. At guard.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Now, if a snap goes wrong, we can blame Bobo too.
Yeah,
so that's fantastic.
His son can't snap the ball.
Yeah, come on, Bobo.
How are you trusting to call plays?
Yeah, and that's my biggest thing.
That's not happening because
I know he's gonna mess up a snap. He's human. Like it's gonna happen at some point. But Georgia, you guys know, like Georgia's RBU historically, like Georgia's built on a run game. Even when they're more dynamic, passing the ball last few years, you still had Zamir White and James Cook, or you had Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards in the backfield. Like you had a very productive running game. Even I would say 2022 and 2023, it wasn't great. And it was like top 25, top 30 nationally. And it's like, it didn't even really seem like it was that good. And last year they were, I think, 102nd or something in run game. And you lose Trevor Etienne, who I think was Georgia's best offensive weapon last year when he was healthy. And Nate Frazier had his fumble issues, but he looked like a really dynamic potential star as a true freshman. But it's a very uncertain group. I mean, it's a guy, your leading rusher, and they brought in the transfer from Illinois, right? That Brett Bielema got pissed off about it the other day.
Josh McCray.
Yeah, Josh McCray. He's like, and so he could be that bruiser that Georgia didn't have, because Frazier and Etienne are both kind of that smaller, kind of quick back, and you didn't have the Kendall Milton, the big guy to go up the middle. And I think McCray's listed at like 6 feet 240 or something. So that could be a game changer in the backfield. But yeah, when you talk about the uncertainty on the offensive line and kind of how unproven, I mean, McCray was good, but he had like 700-800 yards last year, not like a superstar or anything. So if the running game isn't, I don't know. I feel like, just being a Georgia fan, I know it has to be better, but there's not many tangible reasons to say like this is why it's going to be better, other than just being Georgia. I mean, like, we can't have the 100th ranked running game. Like, what is this?
Yeah,
it should be at worst like the 5th or 6th in the SEC.
It's all vibe, and I think vibes are right. Like, there's something to be said about identity, right? And I think run the damn ball, Bobo has become a meme for a reason, right? Because that's what Georgia fans want. I think it's what Georgia, like, people expect Georgia to be good at. Right? That big bruising running back just abusing folks. So I'm with you. Like, I don't know who it's going to be, but again, I just expect Georgia to have a solid running game this year because it's freaking Georgia.
I would hope so. I would have expected it last year too, though. So who knows?
Etienne he didn't have a great game, but he scored twice against Texas. So like that.
Yeah, another guy that was his best game of the year, probably maybe 2 of his best games of the whole year against Texas.
He had, like,
he had a suspension. Yeah, he also had says he was suspended for Clemson, and then I think he missed 2 or 3 games late in the year. So he had like 600-700 yards. Like, I think it was less than he did the previous year at Florida. So I kind of expected him to be that breakout guy, and I think he was when he was healthy, but just, I don't know. He was like making plays despite the offensive line at times.
He was great in the 3rd quarter of the SEC championship game. I think he had like 60 yards rushing in that 1 quarter.
Yeah. I mean, and like, I think the Kentucky game, he had like 75 yards, and it's like this guy had to have had 80 yards after contact. Like, it was insane just how many guys he'd have to make miss behind the line of scrimmage and things like that, because Georgia's offensive line just, I don't know, just wasn't up to what it should be.
I mean, it was, I'm looking at it right now. The last like 10 years, I think it's the lowest output by like a couple hundred yards. So like, that's the first, like, it's the lowest by
the yards per game.
The yards by running back, just total yardage by running back.
Oh yeah, I think you got to go back to like 03 or something for like the lowest our leading rusher has had. I actually did do it one day. I think I may have gone back to like 93 or something. The last time Georgia had less than like 130 yards a game, as a team. Like, it was insane. Like, I think they averaged, it was like 220 or something, like last year, like the year before, where I don't think they were even that good. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Wow. It's just wild. You don't expect that out of Georgia. And again, I don't. 2 years in a row would be a lot for me to believe that that'll be the same way. I just don't. Like, you can pencil them in for, almost 1,000-yard rusher, right? 800, 900 yards from a kid who's averaging 120 a game.
Yeah, and usually it's like 2 guys that are having that are at like 700, 800, 900 yards. Like, Swift and Holyfield are both 1,000-yard guys the same year. Michelle and Chubb are both 1,000-yard guys the same year. Like, that's what we're used to, And maybe we need to be more dynamic passing the ball, but at worst, it's a Dejon Edwards, Kendall Milton situation, and where they had 800 yards apiece or something that year.
Like,
that was a good season, a productive run game. So. Yeah, it's let's hope it gets back to that.
Yeah, I'm just like, my thing with that is like, the running back room got worse with Etienne leaving, and then also I think it's fair to say the offensive line also got worse.
It's hard to say it got better for sure.
So I just don't know if, like, I think all of this depends, like, Georgia's running game improving just depends on, like, Drew Bobo and Daniel Calhoun like being insanely good, and like Nate Frazier or somebody having like a huge leap.
Well, you had,
like,
Ernest
a lot
Green.
of projections and stuff has to happen for Georgia's run game to improve, because I just don't feel like I see it like on paper just getting better.
Why am I blanking on the tackle from last year? Was he 57? The former 5-star Freeling. Freeling and Ernest Green both had injuries. They both had injuries at points last year. So I think that could have been a factor, in those guys, because I mean, Freeling was a former 5-star. Ernest Green was really good as a freshman. So I'm not really sure what happened as a sophomore. So, maybe those guys get back to that. But yeah, I mean, Jared Wilson and Ratledge in the middle, like that, those are two huge losses. I mean, Fairchild too, but he was a 3rd, 4th rounder.
Yeah. I mean, Fairchild was like all SEC. He was a good player.
Yeah, so that's I think the most proven guy in that group, the most seasoned, is Micah Morris, because they did play 3 guards because Ratledge missed some time. So I think Micah Morris is pretty proven.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a question mark. That's why that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't have any tangible reasons for knowing the running game will be better, but it's Georgia and it's got to be, right? Right? Like, I'm trying to convince myself.
I don't know, man.
Well, that's the thing. Like, looking at this now, I think this is going to be a defensive battle again, because I think Texas is probably one of the 2 to 3 best defenses in the whole country this year. I mean, with Simmons, Moore, Brad Spence, who I mean, this is the thing. What I liked what you said, Brad, too, is like, you can't, like, in an hour press conference with your coach, they're going to give you 99% BS, but every once in a while they're going to let something slip. And Sark just mentioning Brad Spence out of nowhere without being prompted tells me a lot. Like, Brad Spence is going to be a really good player for Texas this year, the guy that transferred in from Arkansas. And then you combine that with Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Ethan Burke, if he can jump up and take that next level. And if he's not, then fine. He's still a really good football player. It's going to be really, really exciting, especially off the edge.
Before we jump in, Matt, Bo, I have to dip. I've got family stuff, but thank y'all so much for being here. Matthew, you're in great hands with Matthew. Thank y'all so much for joining us, and we'll do this again soon.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, good name, man. Have a good night.
Y'all too.
To your point, Matthew, I think that's what Georgia fans kind of did a couple years ago when we had Eric Gilbert coming in. And I think Todd Monken was asked about Eric Gilbert. He was like, yeah, he's kind of like a Brock Bowers type. And that's before Brock Bowers had ever played. And we're all like, wait, what does that mean? A Brock Bowers type? Do you already know how good this guy is? Like, these guys know something we don't know. You got to take those nuggets where you can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. And when he says stuff unprompted, I tend to listen. Because Sark, I don't think he said anything unprompted that has been wrong. Like, usually when it comes off script like that, when he tells he's out of his, like, yeah, it's this, and this during this press conference, he usually gets it right. And I think just this defense in general, it's one of the most talented that we've had here probably since like the Sergio Kindle, Brian Arakpo days off the edge. Like, those guys were insane coming off the edge. Sergio Kindle would have been a hell of an NFL player.
Kindle. That's a great name drop.
Yeah. And Anthony Hill, I think, is going to show people, he should have been invited for the Butkus last year. I don't know why he wasn't. This year, he definitely will be. I think he ends up winning it. Like, that guy's a freak. He's going to play most likely off the edge in the NFL. I mean, the guy has, I believe, 15 or 16 sacks in 2 years. Just, hey, go get the quarterback. We're not going to really let you have a position. You're just kind of going to go find the ball, find the quarterback. I think he's an elite guy as well. And then Michael Taft coming back doesn't really get talked about enough. Like, that guy's a really good football player. He's kind of like your guys' Dan Jackson last year. I think he's even a little bit more talented. My question mark would be cornerback number 2. I don't know who that's going to be. Obviously, Jahdae Barron leaves, and then Malik Muhammad on the other side. I think he'll be fine. But then is it going to be Kobe Black, the 5-star freshman last year? Is it going to be Jalen Gilbo sliding out from the nickel spot to the cornerback spot? I don't know who that's going to be. So that's going to be my question on the Texas defense.
Yeah, and they're replacing the Thorpe Award winner, right, in the secondary. Like, that's not going to be easy. Are they expecting some impact transfers starting next year? Yeah, so not in the defensive backfield, but our interior of the defense is going to be basically all transfer portals. Yeah, it's going to be Murad Watson from Syracuse, Travis Shaw from North Carolina, Cole Brevard from Purdue, Hero Canoe from Ohio State, and then Levon Johnson. If he plays, we're in trouble because he wasn't that good at Maryland. He's kind of just a big guy that we brought in. But the guy that is like homegrown here is Alex January. And he was talked about last year as a freshman. He was only a 3-star. But everyone that came into practice
said, who's that other guy? And he's like, oh, it's the other guy we got from Duncanville other than Colin Simmons. So he was talked about, and he played the Ohio State game, and I thought he played pretty well. I think he's going to be really good here at Texas. I don't know how much he plays this year, but he will play a decent amount.
So how do they stack up against the Dogs? That's the question.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Your offensive line, it's weird because I agree. Like college football and football in general is really weird because especially offensive line, you guys may have had more talent last year, but they may gel better this year and they may just be better as a unit. So if your offensive line is the same as last year, I think we probably hold the edge because I think Colin Simmons, I really think he's going to be the best pass rusher in college football. I think he actually might be the best player. I'm insanely high on that guy. What he did the last 5-6 games of the year, he was a freak off the edge, like really, really elite first step quickness. So I think we would hold the edge. Now, if you guys get better there, you guys could hold the edge there. But for now, I think Texas holds the edge in this matchup.
Yeah, and I would say it's tough for Texas to be as good defensively as they were last year, and I guess Georgia should be better offensively, but I don't know. I'm still nervous of the Carson to Gunnar transition, so I don't know that Georgia's offense will be better than it was, and so I think in both of these matchups last year, I think the Texas defense was better than the Georgia offense. So I'd probably give Texas the edge against Georgia's offense right now.
Yeah, I think I probably would too. I mean, even when you're losing a guy like Johnny Barron, like they still just have dudes. Like Anthony Hill is just such a good player. Colin Simmons is a monster. And Georgia, I really just like, I think the passing game is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be better than it was last season. Like the floor is just way higher, assuming they don't drop 37 passes and lead the FBS again. But like, I really just don't know how to feel about the run game. I guess you can kind of bank on it improving just because it's like it can't be worse than it was last year, but like I just don't know how I feel about the players there and with the results last year. Like I don't know. So I think I would definitely give Texas the advantage in this matchup. Like this game is going to be, I feel like it's going to be kind of a rock fight.
Yeah, similar to what you said, Matthew, earlier. Like when a running back just has fumble issues, I don't know. Do they ever fix it completely? Like Nate Frazier, he looked like a potential future star, but if you're fumbling the ball, like that's the best way to lose playing time.
Mm-hmm.
No, I will 100%. Say one thing. I hope both of these teams go into this matchup with at least one loss, if not like 2 losses, because I really don't want to see Georgia Texas like the second week of November and then Georgia Texas the SEC championship. You know, I want this game to be like to get to the SEC championship or something like that.
I could see that. I mean, I'm not writing this in stone yet because I did really well with my predictions last year as a whole for Texas as a team. I have us with 1 loss going in this game. I have us losing to Florida for right now. That is my 1 loss.
Florida, that's the one, huh?
Yeah.
Going into the swamp this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In the swamp. That's the reason. It's early in the season. I think they're going to be, I don't think Florida's going to be that great. I think they're being a little bit overhyped. I think they're like an 8-4 football team, but I just think we destroyed them last year. Like we embarrassed them. We ran them off the field. I think they're going to remember that. And they kind of held DJ Lagway out of that game. I think they're going to go full force with them in this game when they play.
That was the weirdest thing ever. He like got taken off in a stretcher. And then it was like, wait, is he going to play the next week? Like, I don't know. It was very odd. And then, then he didn't play against Texas, then just played the rest of the season. I feel like Florida always gets one, like when they're good, at least they're going to get somebody at home that they shouldn't beat. And maybe it is Texas.
Yeah.
What about Zachariah Branch? That's what I was going to say to you guys. Like it's hard for me to say, like, I think he's going to be pretty good, but he wasn't ever even great at USC under a Lincoln Riley offense. So how do you think you guys are going to use him in the Georgia offense?
I think he's going to be probably like the most explosive player. I would hope Mike Bobo gets more creative than like bubble screens and stuff with him, because that's kind of all he did last year, like to try to drum up some, manufactured production to one guy in the passing game. But hopefully he gets used as a returner, which I know it's just special teams doesn't really have an impact on what we're talking about. But I think he's probably like Noah Thomas is going to be probably that, big body outside X guy. And I would expect Zachariah Branch to spend some time in the slot and outside. Just kind of depending on the down and the distance and the situation and everything. But I don't know. You like, that's a good point. Like my expectations are not for him to like change the offense or anything, or just completely make this passing offense like a top 5 unit, like off of him just being insane or anything. But like, I do think he's going to be one of the probably top 2 players in this receiving core.
Yeah, and I could see that. I'm honestly, like, from a fan perspective, I'm just like, I almost don't want to think about him. I want to think about everything but him, because it's like, I think he truly does have that ability to be like just the number 1 X factor in Georgia's offense. That like Georgia without Zachariah Branch could have a really solid, 5th, 6th best offense in the SEC or something. But I think if he is like what he's supposed to be, like, I think Georgia could have the best offense in the entire conference. Like, I think he's that big of a potential game changer. But like you're saying, I saw the flashes as a true freshman, and I'm not going to pretend I watched all the USC games last year, but you didn't really see any of what he did as a true freshman. So I don't want to put too much, like I was watching that Andy and Ari, that the On 3 guys talking, and I think that Ari dude, I forget what his last name is, said once a 5-star, was it?
Yeah, Wasserman.
Yeah. He said once a 5-star, always a 5-star in his book. And I was just like, no, dude. Some dudes are just terribly evaluated coming out of high school. Like, It's not, that guy didn't tell everyone he was a 5-star. Some recruiting site said he was a 5-star. Like, sometimes you guys are wrong. And so maybe he's not a 5-star receiver. I think he's one of those guys, kind of reminds me of Kadarius Toney from Florida. And you remember Kadarius Toney, it kind of took him a couple years. And then his senior year, I mean, he just had a monster season, like 75 catches, like double-digit touchdowns.
And
then he was terrible in the NFL.
Yeah, and he was that return
he also
weapon.
has one of the craziest plays in Super Bowl history, and he's a champion. Very strange career.
Yeah, very strange career. But his senior year at Florida, he was good. And so I think he's the kind of that weapon. Zachariah Branch just moved different. When you saw him as a freshman, you're like, this dude looks different. And then so you're just kind of surprised to see his production. A guy averaged like 10 yards a catch or something last year. So I think he could be that ultimate X factor, but I don't necessarily feel like Georgia should have like all their eggs in his basket, because I'm more confident about Noah Thomas. Like, I think Noah Thomas, you're going to plug in and know you're getting like a 45, 50 catch guy, 8 touchdowns. He's just that big body receiver out wide. Like, I think Colby Young and Noah Thomas totally changed Georgia's offense, because now Dylan Bell is kind of a kind of X factor, he doesn't have to be that big body making catches against the best corner one-on-one. He gets matched up with the third corner or something like that. So I think Dylan Bell could be much more dangerous, like he was in 2023. And then obviously we're talking about Zachariah Branch. I think those guys could just kind of be those yards after catch type of guys.
Okay, so let's jump into this. It's early, really early. Predictions for this game. Do you think Georgia wins for the 3rd straight time in a row? What do you guys think?
Early predictions. What are we? July 1st. This is like 4 months out.
July 1st.
We're gonna hold you to this.
I mean, games in November. We have no idea who's gonna be healthy, or if either team's quarterbacks are any good. Really.
Hey, that's why this is early.
But like, I think the unit of the 4 units that we've discussed, I think the unit I feel the best about entering this game is Georgia's defense. In Athens at a night game in Sanford. Now, if it was in Austin, I might lean the other way, but I think that environment, coupled with what I expect, like how good I expect Georgia's defense to be, and the offense could just kind of be anything. I think this is going to be kind of a slugfest, and I expect I think Georgia can pull it out on July 1st.
Yeah, and I will say, maybe you might call me a naysayer. I think if you're not picking Arch Manning to be the greatest player of all time, it feels like a naysayer. Yeah. But I think because I'm just not sold that Arch Manning is clearly better than Quinn Yurs right now, maybe that's a hot take. But going into Athens, like we said, like we haven't seen him play at all. Going into Athens, Georgia's won, what is it, 32 straight in a row at home now?
Yeah, something like that.
It's Georgia's home atmosphere. I feel like pre-Kirby Smart left something to be desired, but not just since we started winning. I will say that. It was year one before Georgia started winning. It was just a different energy. It's like we're all rowing in the same direction now. We all don't want to fire the coach every time we don't get a first down. But so with Kirby, I feel like with Sanford Stadium is just different now. I think the only one he's lost since 2017, that South Carolina game.
Yeah, it's only been that South Carolina game.
So yeah, one loss at home since 2017. I just think going into Athens, hopefully that winning streak is still on the line by the time we get to November, because Georgia's got a really tough home slate this year.
I think Texas is barely going to win this game. I think it's going to be 17-14, but I agree. I think it's a rock fight defensive battle, just like both times last year, basically. Like the only reason Georgia scored in the first game is because Texas was so incompetent and gave the ball on their side of the field inside their own red zone that they scored. Otherwise, that game's probably like the SEC championship game too. So I think Texas barely wins this game. Again, this is super early predictions. We'll see what I think in a month, let alone 4 to 5 months. So it's going to be a really good game. Like I think these are two of the 4 best teams in the SEC. Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Texas, in my opinion, are the 4 best teams in the SEC. Throw them in a hat. I don't know who's going to win it this year. I think it's pretty wide open. But that's my prediction super early for this game, 17-14.
Yeah, to your point, I think it was like, I don't know, halfway through the second quarter, they had like the same amount of offense, both teams, but Georgia's average starting point was like the Texas 30-yard line or something like that, and they were up 23-0. And even though they hadn't really done anything offensively.
Yeah, it was. That's the thing too. When going to the SEC championship game, I predicted you guys to win, but I said it was going to be much closer because that game was an anomaly. Like that game was so weird with how everything was. So we'll see, but that's my prediction. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Also, you guys can follow them on their Twitters right there. That is Bo's Twitter. And also join them for the Georgia live show every Tuesday at 7 or 8 Eastern time, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then that is Matt's Twitter right there as well. So please check that out. And here is my Twitter as well as Gerald's Twitter. And you can also check out his Longhorn Pod, which is on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you want to find it. I had a good time with you guys. I really appreciate you guys joining us. We'll do this again the week of the game. We'll get together, discuss it, preview it, actually predict it for real. You know, this is fun to do 4 months in advance, but like you said, Bo, there could be injuries. We don't know what's going to happen. The teams could look completely different by then, but we really appreciate you guys joining us. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. And as always, hook 'em, guys.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.